Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. I get home from work today, fire up YouTube like I normally do, because it seems like that's what I pretty much watch more than anything else almost, even though with all my subscriptions that I have. And I see the WWE Vault uploaded a sit-down interview with the Hardy Boys talking about their career. And I'm thinking in my head, are they getting us ready for the Hardy Boys to go into the WWE Hall of Fame at Wrestlemania 41? They kind of have been blocked by putting them into the Hall of Fame, even though they've been deserved it the past few years because of, both of them being involved with AEW. I believe they both sat down and did this interview. I remember a word on the Observer about them doing an interview for them, like as soon as their AEW contract came up and they were free agents. And I was like, man, it's pretty cool to get the Hardy Boys back in the scene. I remember like when WWE, they made that NWO documentary back in like 2010. If they only would have waited like a year, we could have got the Revolution DVD documentary to have Hulk Hogan. We could have had Eric Bischoff, and it would have been a much better documentary. When I think about the Hardy Boys, we just had somebody get voted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, and they got 99% of the vote to go in. I think that honestly, the Hardy Boys, if they were on a ballot for the WWE Hall of Fame, if they would have done that thing with the network, with the premier stage of the memberships, and people would have been able to vote on the Hall of Fame like they had thought about doing at one point, the Hardy Boys would have to be somebody that got 100% of the votes. I'll tell you the truth. Like, they would go in as a Hall of Fame tag team, and I think there's a good chance that not one, but both of these guys, Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, in a year or two, there's a good chance that they could go in as singles performers. When the Hardys first came on the scene, they were wrestling enhancement matches on Raw and on like Superstars and Challenge. There's a lot of guys that you go back, you can find them wrestling in these matches where it was just like an extra payday to go along with their developmental at the time. I don't even know if they had developmental. It might have just been like them working indies, and this was just an extra date. And they lost match after match, but you just kind of noticed them. And then all of a sudden on one show, they went out there and they beat Kai and Tai. And it was like, oh, wow, these guys are for real. They kept just kind of like plugging along once they got onto the main roster. Then at one point, they were able to actually win the titles against the APA on an episode of Raw. They ended up like getting their ass kicked for it, but they were a really, really good tag team where they had teams to go out there like the Dudleys, as well as like Edge and Christian, where they developed a huge rivalry. At one point, they were able to add on to the rivalry by bringing in Little Spike Dudley and Rhino and Lita all three of them came from ECW, but at one point Lita was actually managing Este Rios, but people were putting together the fact that Matt Hardy and Lita were actually a couple, and there was like some behind the scenes stuff on that. But at one point they really had plans to make the Hardys into singles performers, and they split them up. They put them on different brands. Matt would go on to SmackDown, where he would become version 1. Jeff had that one hell of a ladder match against The Undertaker. They tried to turn him heel at one point. Then I think it was like 2003 was the first time things got a little bit rocky with Jeff Hardy's life, and he ended up being let go from WWE, where he would go do his first stint in TNA and help them out during his first year. That was a big free agent signing for them. Matt would stay in the company, and at one point, like during the Matt and Lita and Edge feud, Jeff made his return, where he actually, was trusted by WWE to come back. It only lasted like 2 to 3 years, because after SummerSlam 2010 is when things got rocky with Jeff again. He had the big It was like the biggest point. He was easily probably the number 2 star in wrestling. And he ended up, having the drug charges, have to go to court, the cops, blah, 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 blah. That got rolled into him being released. Matt stayed till 2010, then he would go to TNA to wrestle with them. But, at WrestleMania, they were able to come back in Orlando. I believe that was WrestleMania 33. That was like a big, huge moment. And although that run wasn't as big, there was no singles run. I don't think they even won the tag titles or anything like that. The broken Matt Hardy gimmick that got over so much in TNA didn't really get over in WWE. They never really pushed it the way that they should. I think at one point Jeff even got injured, and they ended up like tagging up Matt Hardy with Bray Wyatt, and that was supposed to be a big deal. But although there are a lot of ups and downs that have been chronicled, with wrestling, the Hardy Boys are like 2 of like the most down-to-earth guys. I think they love wrestling as much as me, as you, as anybody else. They're really, really nice. I've met them at WrestleCon. I met them at a TNA Bound for Glory deal. They always seem to have the longest line almost at any convention. I think that they are loved by almost just about anybody that ever saw them in a match do something that they had never seen before. But if WWE is able to lock them down going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year, that would be awesome. With it having like a working relationship with TNA, they could still continue to do their bookings, but they're probably going to be in town, like I said, with WrestleCon and anything else. But to actually go into the Hall of Fame, probably be a dream for a lot of people to go in there, and you match them up with Triple H, you're starting to put together one of the best Hall of Fame classes of all time.